Hi, good morning. Can you all hear me? Awesome, great. We're going to get started, but first of all, thank you so much for coming to our session. I'm really excited to follow the amazing keynote that came this morning, especially because of the theme of storytelling. Our intention with this session was to allow our students who are part of our program to really tell their story about coming to this campus and being a part of the campus community. So I think that it's really fitting that we had the chance to follow. But I'm going to kick us off by introducing our panelists that are joining us today, including myself and my colleague. So first of all, my name is Emma Porterwinkle. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the advising manager with the Mercile J Scholars Program. If you don't know what that program is yet, you will find out in a few minutes.
And my name is Adriana Hernandez. I am a program advisor for the program. I use she, her pronouns, and I mainly support the first year scholars.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joaquin Bustos. I use he, him pronouns, and I am a computer science senior.
Hi, everyone. I am Gabrielle Rademacher. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a senior majoring in global health and life science communications.
Hi everyone, my name is Shelby Jans. I'm a senior majoring in educational studies and legal studies.
Thank you for that. So what you can expect today is mainly giving you a little bit of background of what our program is about, who we are, and the bulk of our presentation will be mainly hearing from our students and their experiences. We'll also have time for a Q&A at the end. So let's get started. So we are the Mercile J Scholars Program. We were originally founded as two separate scholarships. Who you see pictured on the slide is our founder, Dr. Mercile J. Lee. We were founded 40 years ago. So back in 1984, originally the Chancellor's and Power Knapp Scholarship. In 2018, it was renamed to the Mercile J. Scholars Program to honor our founder for her service and her legacy. Our main our pillars are scholarship, leadership, and service, and we have an endearing motto of once a scholar, always a scholar. And I think you'll be hearing a little bit more about the spirit of that when you hear from our students.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our student population. You can see some fast facts about our student demographics. Our program has grown over the past 40 years from 6 scholars in 1984 to being nearly 500 today. And we are really proud of the accomplishments that our students have made, and we want to acknowledge that a part of this session is the fact that numbers don't capture the actual experiences of our scholars in the program, and they're really doing amazing things, especially exemplifying that spirit of scholarship, leadership, and service. So I think you'll hear those themes, like Adriana said, throughout our scholars' conversations. And we also want to acknowledge our presence within the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Educational Achievement, the DDEEA. On this screen, you see some of our sibling programs that we are connected with, like PASI, OMI, or the Office of Multicultural Arts Initiative, their scholarship program, First Wave, and then the People program as well. All of these programs are within the DDEEA alongside us, and we get to do a lot of co-planning and connection across each of these programs.
To share a little bit more about some of the support that we provide our scholars. So we have the financial support, so we do award a full tuition scholarship. Along with that, our scholars also get a book stipend every semester, and they also have access to other individual scholarships, such as for funding study abroad. and other things. Along with that, we do provide holistic advising. So what that looks like is we go beyond talking about like what classes, right? We kind of direct those for the academic advisors in our office. We're having conversations about like getting to know who they are as people, where they're coming from, and where they hope to go, and also working alongside them to figure out, ways that we can support them. Along with that, there's also leadership opportunities built into our program, which you will hear. All of our panelists today have held or been involved in some of these opportunities. We also provide mentorship with peers and also in the community, which Emma will talk a little bit more about.
Perfect. So I'm just going to give a little snapshot of these different program components that Adriana just highlighted. And I am going to move through this kind of quick because I think that the stories that our scholars will tell you about will highlight a lot of these and paint a better picture than what we can. So first of all, holistic advising. I included this slide to show you some of the ways that we shape that conversation. General check-ins, like how are your classes going? Are you making friends? What is your schedule like? How can we make sure that you're eating, 3 meals a day when you have classes back to back? We are really there to be that person who checks in and asks those questions because especially on a campus like this, we know that there aren't a lot of people who are accessible really quickly for students to gain that kind of personal connection with. So all of our advisors frame their conversations like that in a holistic advising. This also gives you a little snapshot of all of the leadership positions that we have. So we have 12 leadership positions within each class year that are available. The chair positions are inclusion development, social, and service chairs. And so our social chairs are putting on monthly events to help strengthen our community and provide just like that social outlet for our students to connect outside of our regular programming. We have service chairs who are partnering with community organizations to provide service opportunities, and they do a really great job at diversifying the organizations that we partner with so that a lot of our scholars can find organizations that connect to their personal values and the impact that they want to have and the relationship they want to have with the surrounding community. And then our inclusion development chairs are there to foster some more inclusion and equity-minded activities and can serve as consultants to the rest of the leadership team to think about how we can create a more welcoming space. And some of the people on this panel have held some of these positions, so you'll get to hear more about what they've done and the impact they've had within their cohort. And then lastly, I want to highlight our mentorship opportunities. We have a model of mentorship that starts freshman year where we're building their community of scholars by pairing them with a big sibling who's a sophomore, junior, or senior in the program to kind of foster that cross-cohort connection and establish their community of scholars. We have a mentorship program that also extends to pairing our sophomores and juniors and seniors with other members of our campus-wide community. So faculty members and staff across the university sign up by the hundreds to serve as mentors to our students. And then by the junior or senior year, a lot of our scholars will opt for our alumni mentorship program so that they can connect with an alum from our program and get to know maybe the career path that they're going to go and identify themselves and how they're going to navigate that community beyond campus.
And, along with 40 years, our alumni community is very strong. As you can see, this is just a glimpse of some of the spaces that our scholars go on into the workforce as leaders and really exemplifying their learning through the program, but also being part of the greater Madison community. But of course, we want to focus in on the student experience and particularly, right, the experience between matriculation and graduation. So the scholars that we have on the panel today are experts at navigating this campus and not only finding community, but building community in spaces where sometimes it may not exist. So we will transition now to hearing more about our panel's experiences and a little bit more about their journey.
All right, I'm glad that Adriana and I get to stop talking as much. This is definitely the reason why you all are here, right? So I'm going to pose our first question to our panelists, and we can go down the row, if that sounds good for you. All right, so could you tell us why did you choose UW-Madison, and explain your thinking and any other contributing factors? And if you want to reiterate your name, since it's been a while.
Hi everyone, my name is Joaquin Bustos. It's nice to say hi to you again. So as a Wisconsinite, there's a lot of great colleges in Wisconsin, but as a Wisconsinite, Madison is the place to be in my mind. It was always at the top of my list and what I was aiming for. I know there are a lot of opportunities here, as well as a great community of students, and it was the goal in trying to go to college. I wanted to go to Madison.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gabrielle Rademacher. I go by Gabby. And Madison was on my radar because I split my adolescent years between a suburb of Milwaukee and Rochester, Minnesota, which is about 3 hours away from Madison. And a lot of people say this, but it was far from home, but not too far from home. So being able to go back to Minnesota and visit my family was really important in terms of picking a place. And I really felt like Madison, especially with the Mercile J Scholar Program, had opportunities for me to build community and establish my place on campus.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shelby Jantz. I use she, her pronouns. I would say the main thing is I'm a first-generation college student, and I'm originally from Kenosha, Wisconsin. And so I wanted to stay somewhere where I could navigate back to my home community relatively easily to feel connected, because I was a little nervous coming into college since it was a brand new experience for me and my entire family. And then also there was a financial aspect. So I always wanted to go to Madison because it is a pinnacle, an educational pinnacle within our community. But I knew that there would be financial barriers that came along with that. And so it was really more about, can I afford to go to Madison? Can I get into Madison? And do I think I'll thrive at Madison? And so those were some of the questions that I really asked myself when I was kind of applying.
Yeah, thank you for those answers. So I have the next question, and that is, how did you find out about Mercile J Scholars Program? What made you decide to apply to Mercile?
Thank you for that question. I found the Mercile J program through my own research. Later on, I realized that I had a friend who had also applied to this program. But some things that drew me into this program, as opposed to other scholarship programs at other universities, was the aspect of the structured aspect of the program, as well as the community. Coming into UW-Madison, just envisioning myself coming in as a freshman, there is a huge student population, one that I've never been a part of such a huge population, and I kind of wondered how I would fit into the population here at Madison. And with the diverse, smaller community that the Mercile J program cultivates, I definitely saw myself becoming a part of the community here. And those are two huge reasons, beside the financial aspect, that really drew me to this program.
Hi, everyone. So my dad actually found the program for me. I am half Vietnamese, and I've grown up in predominantly white areas for most of my life. So that's been an identity that's been difficult to navigate. And so my dad has been a huge role model in terms of pursuing higher education. And he was a stay-at-home dad, so he was really integral in my learning growing up. And so when I was applying to Madison, he was looking at scholarship programs, and he found the Mercile J Scholars Program, which took into account identity, especially Southeast Asian identity. And when I took a look at it, I felt like I could really resonate with the scholarship's mission, and also looked forward to the opportunity to connect with people of similar identities. So that's kind of how I found out about it and why I decided to pursue my application for it.
When I was applying, once I had gotten in, I went on WISH, the Wisconsin Scholarship Hub, and so that was where I had originally realized that I had been matched to send an application to Mercile. And after reading through the pillars of the program, I felt like it really aligned with a lot of the things that I was involved in high school. But then also, I'm a transracial adoptee, and so I had predominantly grown up in white spaces. And so the idea that I could have a full, diverse group and community right when I came into college was really appealing to me, because it was something that I hadn't really experienced in my adolescence. And so that was probably the main factor that I connected with when I did my application for Mercile, just because I felt like that would really set me up for a lot of success in college.
Thank you for bringing us back to that time when you were deciding on where to go to college and what community you wanted to be a part of. And I'm so glad that you're a part of our scholarship program. And so I want to continue to walk down memory lane with you all and have you tell us a little bit more about your transition to college. So think back to freshman year. What significant experiences impacted your transition to this campus?
Definitely. So there were two huge aspects to my transition. Coming in, academically, I was focused on my classes a lot of the time. So much so, I came in with 13 credits, which is a little less than the normal workload here at UW-Madison. But I was working my entire first semester on my classes. And that really also affected my belonging, how I felt I belonged on campus through the people that I met, through the extracurriculars that I participated in. And for comparison, I'm taking 13 credits now, which is the first time since my first semester here, and I have a bit of free time. So that transition was definitely difficult at first. It took quite a bit of time to find my spaces here on campus, which I think we will touch a little bit later on. But the academic transition and really the social transition were two huge aspects that were at the forefront of my mind. And it definitely took a bit of time to become acclimated here on campus.
My transition, if I could describe it in one word, was all right. It wasn't particularly difficult in terms of finding community and spaces where I felt comfortable. Being a scholar meant that we got to move in early and we had orientation before everybody else did. So I was able to find community, and I made my first college friend all before classes started, which really helped with my social transition to college. However, academics were really difficult. I took general chemistry my first semester, and I really, really struggled with it. But luckily, with the scholar program, we were able to be prioritized for certain resources like the Chemistry Learning Center, which was really integral to my learning and really helped me develop study habits. So it wasn't a necessarily excellent transition, but I think that things worked out okay, and I think the program really helped with my social and academic transition to college.
Yeah, I would say I had a very similar experience to Gabby. I lived in Chadbourne Residence Hall, and I was lucky enough to have 7 Mercile J scholars that lived on the same floor as I did, and so that was amazing because I had a built-in community that was just 2 doors down, and so we had met each other when we were in our orientation a couple weeks before classes started, and so we were able to build those friendships very quickly, and so that really helped my social integration into college. Academically, it was a little bit more challenging. I experienced a lot of imposter syndrome those first, especially I'd say 3 or 4 weeks into college, but I was fortunate enough to be enrolled in a first-year interest group, and so I was with a cohort of people that I had eventually like stayed with for 3 different classes, and I was also fortunate enough to have the same professor for 2 of those 3 classes, and he really was someone who empowered me and lifted me up and always encouraged me to try and build my confidence those first couple of weeks. And so I credit him a lot to really helping me feel like I belonged on this campus and that I academically was just as smart as everyone else and I belonged in the room with everyone. And so that was really, really impactful for my experience.
Yeah, a lot of different experiences, right, when we transition. Also, just so you guys know, we did not coach them. So all the great things that they're saying about our program, we did not, this is just we had nothing to do with that. But it's good to hear, it sounds like a lot of themes of like relationships and finding community and, it's definitely a transition. So kind of digging a little bit more about that, right? Where exactly on campus do you feel a sense of belonging? How did you find these spaces?
I would say I've found these spaces simply by showing up. You have to show up. It was difficult at first, coming into the computer science department, taking computer science courses. I was a smart student in high school, but when you come to a big campus, everybody is smart. You see students in your class, and you wonder, how the hell did you do that? It would take me a couple of lectures to figure things out while other students seemingly got it on the spot. But showing up to not only my classes, but computer science, extracurriculars, clubs, etc., showing up to the things that interest me, or how I were exposed to some of the people that I get to see every day and some of the people that are just my community here on campus. In addition to that, I would say showing up leads to pursuing my interests, in which I was able to find my niche on campus through things I've been able to lead. So I would say my community exists within the computer science community here on campus, as well as other interests that I've just showed up to. Rock climbing, going to the gym, things that interest me.
I would say finding community from my personal experience is a lot of trial and error. I think especially as freshmen, we're offered a lot of opportunities to engage with student orgs and just different activities around campus like intramurals. And I think it's really exciting that we get to try all of these things, but not all of them are necessarily for you. So for one, I automatically had community coming into the university because of the scholarship program, and a lot of my current closest friends are scholars. So that's one way that I found community, and that is based on identity and shared values, as well as just being in the same scholarship program. Otherwise, I have tried various student orgs that I was interested in, and some of them stuck and some of them haven't. But I think really staying persistent in trying new things and exposing yourself to new opportunities has really helped me find community with people on campus. Another thing, as Joaquin mentioned, is just showing up to classes. So as a global health major, I have really found community with a lot of fellow students who have a lot of similar interests and shared values, and also similar visions for the future as well. And so that's something that I really value in community.
I would say I find community probably the most in 2 different places. The first being my academic department. The School of Ed is great at fostering community within our scholars, and we have great professors who really go out of their way to get to know you, get to know your interests, check in with you, provide you different opportunities. And then there's also, we're a smaller department, and so I know a lot of my classmates by name. I know their interests. We check in with each other. I've had classes with them starting since freshman year. And so that has been great to be a part of because it's helped me build my academic and professional portfolio. in a way that is in a sense of care, and where I can show up and question, oh, I don't know if I want to do this or this, and I'm not met with judgment, I'm met with support. And so that's been really amazing. And then the second place that I find community is definitely within my friends in the Mercile program. I have had my closest friends are Mercile scholars, and then I have become friends with their friends. And so it's kind of just built this beautiful network of friends that I have, that they know about my scholarship, even if they aren't scholars. They understand how important it is to me. They show up for my scholarship events when I tell them that it's something that matters. And building that bridge really started with having friends in Mercile. And so that to me is always the place that I feel like that is my home here, and that's where I go back to.
We may not have coached them, but we did offer them free swag. So I think maybe that's why we're getting so much praise. But no, thank you for sharing all of that. And you shared some really tangible examples with us about how you've felt this sense of belonging in different communities. I was wondering if we can, kind of zoom back even further and tell me, how do you know that you are a part of a community and that your voice is valued?
I would say for me, it's simple. To be heard is to be valued, in my opinion. And I can give a great example in the Mercile J scholarship and how I was supported and my opinion and ideas were embraced. So during a scholarship advisor meeting with Emma, during my spring semester of my sophomore year, we had a conversation about the numerous computer science majors on campus, and we started talking about hackathons and my previous experience with hackathons. And in my experience, there were shortcomings in which it did not allow me to achieve the expectations that were supposed to happen for me. Networking with other students, coming out of a hackathon with a project to put on my resume. And for those who don't know, a hackathon is just usually a 24-hour event where teams are formed and you come together to create a project, usually around some sort of theme. And these projects are then ranked by judges at the end, and awards and places are given. And this conversation with Emma, a year later down the line, led to our scholarship's very first hackathon. And it came from a conversation. She was listening to me, and I felt that my opinion was empowered and embraced, and it turned into something that multiple students enjoyed, and the new freshman cohort this year have heard about and actually want to see a hackathon part 2. So yeah.
For me, a big part of community is feeling respected and valued. Starting with the scholarship program, I have built a relationship with the advising team where I feel like I can be candid about my experience as a student on campus, no matter how that looks. I have a lot of positive things to say about the scholarship, but obviously I do have struggles on campus being a student of color, especially because it's a predominantly white institution. So this is something that I have openly discussed with the advising team, and I feel as if my experience is respected and valued and is taken into account in these discussions. And additionally, in my major, I have built personal relationships with my professors, and I feel as if they really value who I am, my background, and how I want to apply it to the field of public health, and really tell me and encourage me that the work that I want to do is important and is really valuable. And so I really feel community in my majors as well.
I think the main aspect of community for me is to be able to be met where you are. So much of life, especially as an undergrad, is just discovering new things, and sometimes it can be really overwhelming. And so having people around you, whether that's faculty, staff, or friends, who can meet you where you are and support you through those moments, I think is one of the strongest parts of community. And I also think being able to show up authentically as yourself. there are so many spaces on our university where we have to code switch and we have to change who we are and we have to show up differently than what we would like to. And so the places that I find community are where I don't have to do any of that. I can be who I want to be. I can talk the way I want to talk. I can candidly express my opinions and be met with support instead of judgment. And so I would say those two are the biggest things that I look in for community, and I find those in a lot of different places on campus.
No, thank you for that. A lot of themes about being able to show up as your whole self is something that I was hearing along with that. Really feeling validated, right, with the people that you find in your communities is really important. So thank you for sharing those answers. Moving on to the next question, right, kind of bringing it back a little bit, to our community of scholars. I want to know what elements of the program have been most impactful to your journey on campus.
I would say the commitment from all of our members of the scholarship program, as well as our great faculty and staff. When we take a look at our scholarship program, there are students who are involved in all aspects of campus, and I can name multiple students that come to the top of my head that have led great endeavors, who have created clubs here on campus, who have created awesome events, as well as our faculty here who always lead great events for us and always bring us together during the year. I value those moments especially, and through these aspects I feel are the strengths of our program.
I would say that the leadership opportunities that the program has built in have really helped me develop my leadership style and leadership skills. I have held each chair position in the program, and I am also currently a leadership advisory board member where I mentor younger chairs and help lead class meetings for younger cohorts. And I believe that these opportunities that they encourage and build into the program have really helped me get to where I am today and become a more effective and empathetic leader, and something that I will use, skills that I will use leaving college, going into my master's program and my career.
I would say being in a community with people who are bright and driven, who come from various backgrounds, has been the most empowering thing for me. I remember we do a thing called Scholar Share Out at our big meetings where everyone comes, and we pass a mic around, and it's an opportunity for people to basically share any accomplishments that they've had in the last month since we saw each other. And I remember distinctly my freshman year, the first Scholar Share I ever went to, and there was someone who was like, oh, I just got into med school. And then there was someone else who was like, oh, I just got into law school. And I was like, oh my God, these people are so cool. I can do that too. And being around people who are just so driven and they know what they want and they know the change that they want to see in the world and they're determined to get there really has shown me that I can do those things too. And that has just been opening my mind so much and has led me to want to pursue so many other leadership opportunities and eventually pursue grad school. And that wouldn't have been possible if I had never seen role models in the Mercile program that showed me that it's possible.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I just want to reiterate how amazing this scholar community is, because it is truly humbling showing up to work and talking to each of you and advising appointments. There's not a moment that I get to interact with one of our scholars and don't walk away thinking I feel inspired from that interaction. So I'm glad that you guys uplifted that. Our next question that we have for you is, Mercile J. Lee scholars represent diverse identities. What commonalities are shared amongst our scholars, and what are some differences that you've observed also across our scholars?
Yeah, so you brought up a really great answer. As a freshman, in our big meetings, we do have a scholar share where scholars share the accomplishments, recent or in the past. And as a freshman, I just remember, how the hell am I going to do any of that? of what some of these upperclassmen, students, even underclassmen, were sharing with the rest of us. And not to piggyback off my last answer, but we do have a diverse and very strong community of scholars. We have students, I could shout out a few. I'm thinking of Isaac Yang right now. He, since very early on, since freshman, sophomore year, created an ensemble of students who act and do really just these great shows for other students. He's grown a whole organization, and it's really popular on campus. And this is just one example of many students who lead different initiatives here within our scholarship program. So really, the diverse identities of us are really a strength, leading to the diverse initiatives and endeavors that a lot of our students create and that external communities get to participate in and enjoy and really just celebrate.
I would say one common thread, similar to what Joaquin said, is that all of the scholars are leaders in their own way. Despite having diverse backgrounds and identities, they are able to show up and be leaders in whatever they're interested in. So I have some friends who are engineering. I know nothing about engineering, but the things that they are doing and the impact that they have in their realm on campus is really inspiring. The things that my other friends are doing, one is a sociology and chemistry major, if you can believe it, how she shows up in her classes and how she is a leader and what she's involved in is really inspiring. So I think having this understanding of showing up and being a leader in the spaces that interest you is something that I have found kind of is in common with each scholar.
I always have found that there's a very strong commitment from our scholars to uplift the communities that we come from. We often share about our backgrounds, where we grew up, and I think we're all committed to this mission of providing more pathways for people like us to be in the positions that we are in, and that is such a common thing that is talked about within our scholarship community, and that brings me immense joy and hope for what scholars in our community can do for the world. I would say something that also makes us different is that a lot of us come from different cultural backgrounds. And that has been incredible to be able to learn about different people's cultures and traditions and customs. And we share those things authentically. And I was never exposed to probably some of the things that I have been exposed to by being a Mercile. And it is so nice to be able to know there are so many different cultures that exist in the world and that we're all coming and we're all showing up for each other and our communities. And so that has definitely expanded my worldview.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think, I know for me as staff, right, kind of being able to work with scholars who have so much respect and love for each other, it's really, truly inspiring. I'd also want to emphasize, right, we are a really big scholarship. So being able to hear about these connections and kind of bring them together in a way where they celebrate each other and learn from each other, right? We have 500 scholars all through campus, different years. It's truly humbling to be working with scholars, with that level of respect and love for each other. And also with all their unique passions and interests. Yeah, there's some combinations that, they're really amazing. So I have the next question, which is, what areas of growth do you see for our community and for also the greater Madison community?
Yeah, I would say, excuse me, there are definitely events on campus that impact us as a whole, whether it's the student community or the greater community of Madison as a whole, which encompasses the student community and UW-Madison. As a community, I feel that we can respond to certain events better. There are definitely things that affect us, and there are definitely outcries from our community for a response from our institution. And there are times where no response is a response, and there are times where feelings and outcry for a response are not validated. So I feel really trying to embrace our community in different ways when we need it, showing up for whether that manifests showing up for another person, or whether that manifests on a larger level where a response is requested from our institution. Really showing up for the communities that are affected during critical events are necessary, in my opinion.
I obviously have nothing but great things to say about the scholarship program. However, as Joaquin was mentioning, I feel like the institution doesn't take genuine measures to support its students of color. I think that with the current state of affairs in Madison, in Wisconsin, in the United States, the institution has a lot of power to genuinely speak and create space and support their students of color. But I feel like there's a genuine lack of interest or intention towards supporting us as students. And this is something that I have discussed with many other students of color and other scholarship programs within the DDEA. And they share similar thoughts of feeling genuinely unsupported, which I believe is very important as we are a predominantly white institution. And it's one thing to say that you support diversity and you care about bringing diverse students into campus, but it's another thing to genuinely support them. And so sometimes it feels as if the institution is very performative. And I believe that the institution, the universities should take better measures to genuinely support their students of color and create spaces, especially because a lot of diverse student organizations and other staff that are focused on supporting these students are put into spaces in which they don't have properly allocated resources.
I would say a level of transparency needs to become established. I think it is a myth that students of color and students in our organizations under the DDEA are unaffected by actions taken by administration. We feel under attack, and our scholarships feel under attack, our administrators feel under attack, as students we feel under attack, and we are proud of our scholarship. I am empowered by my scholarship. I want my scholarship to be supported, thrived, and celebrated. That's something I don't necessarily feel like I see every day, and I see on an institutional level. And when we are not met with support, when we are not given the resources to understand the political climate that we are facing, when we are not shown how these policies are going to affect us and we are left in the dark about those things, that is when this sense of distrust and this sense of being abandoned comes about. And so I am so proud of the Mercile J program. We do great work. We have great scholars. They are some of the best people I know. I want those people to be recognized. I want the people that work in our scholarship who put in day and day so much effort to support us, more than they probably are paid to do. I want them and their actions to be recognized too, because without them, I would never be able to be in the places that I am at, to achieve the leadership that I have been able to accomplish, and to eventually graduate on time and graduate feeling happy. So I feel that we really need to do a better job of just supporting students and being transparent with them and being honest, because honesty is, I think, something that we just are scared of. And there's nothing to be scared of when you're being honest.
No, thank you for that. I just want to, acknowledge how brave, right, and honest these responses are. I think I can speak for everyone that this is the truth, right? It's some things that are hard to hear. We need to hear. So thank you for sharing and being honest with that. We will now take a few questions from the audience and the chat, if there's any. So we'll kind of dive right in.
And let's offer a round of applause to our panelists. Right, so I believe if there are questions in the audience, we will bring a mic to you. Yeah? Yes, okay. And we might be getting some, not in the chat yet. Okay.
So for you guys, what does like support, or I guess two questions, like have you seen an instance of the institution actually supporting you, and like what did that look like? Or have you seen it where like you saw something happen, you're like, this is where the institution should come in? Because I feel like a lot of times I feel that way as well, and then I'm like, but what would they even do? You know?
So within the DDEA, which our scholarship is housed, recently with the socio-political climate, I think students have needed extra support. And apparently, the university said that scholarships and other programs that do support diverse students on campus who, as I'll reiterate, need extra support during this time, we're not allowed to hold processing spaces for their students for a myriad reasons because it was too political. And I think that is just one example of how the university restricts our scholarships' ability to genuinely support students. I think that also the new university policy on not speaking on some of these issues really disenfranchises free speech for a lot of these students. And also not speaking up as a university, I think, is a stance in and of itself. And I think that the university should be able to, should support its students and allow staff to also create spaces to support these students and create and build community, especially when it is needed.
I would say an example of the university doing something positive would be, I'm on the student advisory panel for Dr. LeVar Charleston, and we meet monthly and we discuss DEI issues. Last year, in the wake of the Board of Regents decision, we were very much kept in the dark, but within that particular space, we were able to have a very candid conversation about what this policy meant and also raise concerns about how that policy was enacted without student voice. And so, although that wasn't a widespread conversation that many people were privy to, I personally felt heard and I felt supported. And it did make me feel better about the situation because I finally felt like, okay, someone is listening to my concerns about how this policy was enacted. So I would say that's one positive example that I've had.
I'd just like to add, on a note, there have been multiple global events that have happened since my time being here on campus that affect local communities of students here on campus. And not necessarily that the university has to enact every single global event, but there are times where, many times, where communication would be appreciated. And it goes at times more than just a statement. I feel as a student in the student body, we are given no response, we are given a statement, and that is the level of transparency and communication that we receive. There may be a need to brainstorm further ways to communicate and to be transparent and honest with students so that they feel heard and seen for different global events or local events that occur here on campus.
We have time for more questions.
Yeah, thank you to all of you for sharing your experiences. I guess yeah, as someone who was like a first generation going to college, I'm working now, but I'm just kind of like reflecting on my experience as a college student, and like yeah, this is a great program that is offered for our students underrepresented. I I guess yeah, I wish I had known more about things like this, and I'm curious like how much outreach like you can do or you have done to students. Yeah, like you mentioned, like this is maybe an institution. I didn't go here, but an institution where yeah, maybe the voices of the unrepresented students don't get brought in, but maybe they don't even know that there's this opportunity, right? Like even if they're not part of the program, I'm just curious like what kind of outreach or like impact you have been doing or try to do for these students.
Yeah, I took the mic because I'm imagining staff have better perspective on this question. But we have actually shifted our like outreach and admissions since these scholars applied to the program. So you heard them talk about how they found the program, they applied to it specifically in addition to applying to UW-Madison. Within the last couple of years, we got rid of our application, and all students who apply to UW-Madison are being screened for our scholarship program. So that helps build our reach and our ability to serve students who have never heard of us before. So that definitely, I think, is a more equitable approach. But it also means that we still aren't reaching necessarily some of our out-of-state students who, or even in-state students, like people who look at the sticker price and they go, okay, yeah, UW-Madison's too expensive for me, right? Or I don't know if I'll have access to scholarships to be able to go here. If they haven't heard of us, they might not know that they could be eligible and, you know, receive this opportunity in addition to the support. So we do have, you know, a partnership with the admissions office, and we have our outreach liaison from our program in the audience today. And as staff, we go to different college fairs. And throughout Wisconsin, this year we went to Chicago and the Twin Cities as well. And we do recruitment events to try to, you know, put our name out there and make sure that people know that, like, okay, yes, UW-Madison, you know, there are financial opportunities and support structures in place. So that's what it looks like currently, but there's definitely room for growth.
Yes, and just also to add to that, right? I think it's also like word of mouth. I think you heard in one of the students, I believe Shelby mentioned that this is something that they heard about, right? A lot of students in our program too, like, you know, they knew someone, right? Like an alumni or someone who was already there a year ahead of them. And also, right, in our division, we are not the only scholarship program, right? So there's a variety. You know, we have the Posse program, the People program, Oh My. So their outreach looks different, but I think like for us, like existing within our division, I think it's just really being visible in terms of like, you know, like our events, like Emma was saying, and also our students, right? We like, as you see, you know, we kind of have like a little bit of swag, so that way our name is a little bit more visible. And I think too, like with some of the challenges, right, of like, you know, how do you reach people and, you know, encourage them to even take that first step of applying? That is a challenge. I think that we're all collaboratively kind of working with. So that's a great question.
Hi, I'm really enjoying this talk and hearing, you know, the amazing ideas and responses from the student panel. So I have a question for the students on the panel. And Joaquin in particular, I'm in the computer science department, and one of the things that I work on, I'm a teaching faculty, is trying to increase that sense of belonging for freshmen and sophomores in large courses, in big departments like computer science and other departments on campus. And I've done some research and some surveys, that measure belonging for students in their computer science classes. And the results of the surveys that I do usually show that students from underrepresented groups often feel a much lower sense of belonging in the department, in their courses. And so I'm wondering if you could just go back one more time and just maybe give some suggestions for what would you suggest that instructors in other departments can do to help students from MJLSP scholars and other students feel a sense of belonging in their major and in their department.
Thank you for that question. So from my experience, as I mentioned before, it really was a process of showing up, and after a certain amount of time of seeing familiar faces and getting over the learning curve of computer science, having come in having not known how to code any computer science principles or concepts, it was definitely difficult at first. If there's one thing that I've found is a really big shortcoming of the computer science department, is the lack of being able to connect with TAs, professors. It's an innate problem with how big our university is and how classes are structured. But really what facilitates a connection to courses, to concepts, is really that connection with an experienced leader in the course, whether that's a TA or a professor. There have been times where I've gone to office hours and it's swarmed with students and I have to wait hours to connect for a couple of minutes with a TA or a professor. And sometimes that shuns students away. So whether it can lead to outside of the classroom activities that are facilitated by the course or something that is required during the course, something with an experienced TA or professors, facilitating small groups of students to really help students connect one-on-one, to have an intimate connection with the concepts, with their peers, and with the professor. I think that would be incredibly useful for students in creating a sense of belonging in the courses that they take. Because oftentimes, really they shoulder the burden of having to learn something when there's no one in their class they feel they can go to, and there's too much of a line to go to a TA or a professor. Really that resource of connecting with somebody who's leading the course, we might need more of those individuals, would really facilitate greater belonging in the computer science department for students.
I also think educating faculty on the different scholarship initiatives within the DDEA would also be something that's beneficial, because we have multiple scholarships and they all kind of do different things and they serve different purposes. And I know for me, a great sense of belonging that happens for me with a professor or a teacher or a TA is if I say I'm a Mercile J scholar and they know what that is and they're like, oh, I have heard of that scholarship program. That is so cool. Can you tell me more about it? Or just things like that where you're feeling seen in something that's so important to you, I think fosters a great connection. And it's just something that not all professors obviously have the time to think about, but it is something that on a department level, I think we can work more on just like telling our professors what different programs are happening on campus.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. And I just want to plug some like really concrete ways that you can get involved, because I think that faculty members in particular, we really want you to like reach out to us, and we will reach out to you as well to like be a mentor and be in that space. Something I saw came out of the hackathon last year that Joaquin ran. We had faculty mentors within the CS department. One of the faculty members actually had a course this fall, and two of the students who were assigned him as a mentor decided to take his class because of the connection that they had over that weekend. And I thought that that was really cool to see somebody show up. I had never met him before that day, and he dedicated 24 hours of his time. And then one of the students I advised was like, yeah, I'm still connected with him. I needed to take his class. I'm going to take his class again in the spring. And so that was like one really small way that this faculty member showed up for our community. And I would love to see, across other departments, people like really take advantage of those opportunities when they come up.
Yeah, so we have about 3. So the first one is a comment. I believe it's directed to the student panelists. Thank you for your bravery and speaking your truth. The second question from Kistin: for underrepresented students not identified for these or other scholarship programs, how might we as a university extend some of these resources support? And then there's Vivian who says, excellent session. Many thanks to the program and the staff for supporting the scholars. The panelists are exemplified examples of the program's impact. So, Kisting, questions for underrepresented students not identified for these or other scholarship programs. How might we as a university extend some of these resources or supports?
So in my realm on campus, we are currently cooking up new ideas for our second hackathon, which will happen in the springtime, extending our resources from our scholarship out to the community, manifest possibly through our hackathon. This was an idea for our last hackathon, and it will be again reevaluated for this one. We wanted to extend our hackathon beyond our scholarship program, extending something that addresses the shortcomings that we found with other hackathons, possibly being offered for students beyond the DDEA. So extending our event to students of the greater Madison community would be one way in my realm that I'd be able to extend our resources.
I think one resource that maybe isn't defined quantitatively from the scholarship program is just creating a safe space and putting energy into students of different backgrounds. And that's something that I believe is really invaluable resource. And so by being empowered by the scholarship program, by advisors and by peers, I feel as if I can also empower and create community and space with other underrepresented students.
I could see 2 things happening. The first being the extension of holistic advising across all departments. So possibly adding on more advisors who specialize in holistic advising that are department specific, because I know I have an academic advisor and a holistic advisor, and the combination of those 2 have been very beneficial for me, and it also has expanded the amount of opportunities that I've been able to participate in, because my holistic advisor, Emma, has shared many opportunities, including the Truman Scholarship opportunity with me that I went for last year, and that was an amazing experience. So I could see that helping a lot more marginalized communities and students who aren't involved in our scholarship. The second would be the peer-to-peer mentoring. So I have found it to be such a rewarding experience. I've had 3 littles that I have mentored, and I also had 1 big, and I could see something happening on a campus-wide level where we extend that peer-to-peer model and we connect students of all marginalized backgrounds, whether they're in scholarships or not, with a peer that's older than them and possibly in the same major as them. Because I have had littles who have been very similarly aligned and also not aligned with my major. All of them have been rewarding, and it's something that I feel like is my way of giving back to my community. And I also know that they ask me a lot of questions that aren't related to school or scholarship. Things like housing is a big one that we talk about every year, how to enroll, professors that I've taken that I would recommend to them to take, things like that. And I think that could be really valuable for all students.
Yeah, I think for the question, right, of students who are not part of our program and how they can find communities. So yes, to what all of our students have been saying of connect with people. And I want to go back to something Joaquin said, which is show up, right? I think we, for our scholars, the way we built our community, we have a lot of events, right? Like our class leaders, they lead monthly class meetings, so there's a lot of points of contact. So I would emphasize kind of like what you're hearing from our scholars. So just like show up to these spaces. You never know who you're gonna meet. And especially like I know a lot of our students are involved in student orgs, right? So that's been another source of community. And like you're saying, like you will meet people who are really like driven, dedicated, in spaces outside, right, of our scholarship. Like our scholars are everywhere, you can imagine. So I would just encourage you to show up.
Any other questions? We have a bit more time, maybe one or two.
Hi, thanks. I was wondering, as 3 students who are either in-state or very near in-state or from the area that is predominantly white institution, so is the town and so is the state and whatnot. And I'm wondering if you find that you feel the need or find a need from other students who aren't from this area to help them navigate the university, or I mean, because I've asked the question. I'm not going to ramble anymore. Sorry.
So I have been a big sibling. That's our mentorship program for the last 3 years. And one of my littles is from California. And I'm sure everyone knows that California is much more diverse than here, the upper Midwest. And so I think the scholarship has been really impactful for him because he was able to find scholars of identities that also lived in his residence halls or had similar interests and majors. And so he was really able to find community through our scholarship program, but also I was able to let him know about the Vietnamese Student Association on campus, so other student orgs that really engage and create community for students of color or other diverse backgrounds. So I think that has been impactful.
I've had 2 littles from the Chicago land area, and they both struggled in the beginning. The difference from their home communities and coming here, it was a shock, and it was something that they had to make sense of, and it was something that they had to navigate through. But I know both of my littles, they found a great sense of community within our scholarship. I also really encouraged them to go to the MSC, the Multicultural Student Center, because that is where you can find other resources and things like that. And now both of them are involved in identity-based student orgs, which have brought a lot of community for them. But I would say it is hard. I mean, it's not an experience that I've had personally, but I know, and a lot of it has to do with even food, cultural foods that they would have had very easily accessible when they were at home. It's not as easy to get here, especially when you're a first year and you're living in a dorm where there aren't kitchens as easily accessible that you could make your own food. And so if you can't purchase that food, that's something that food is intrinsically a part of someone's identity, and having access to that makes you feel safer and more, and sharing food is a cultural thing that you can share with your friends for them to understand you at a greater level. And so I know that's also been a really big struggle for a lot of them, but we've worked through it and they have found outlets, but it does take time.
I really appreciate that question because something that, as our panelists were talking, that I was thinking a lot about and sitting with is just how much work they've put into not only navigating this campus and showing up. That takes a lot of courage and bravery, and putting yourself out there is very vulnerable. And I think that all of our panelists have done that taken that risk, and obviously it paid off. They're amazing, and their contribution to this community is amazing. But not only did they navigate their own transition, but they took it upon themselves to, give back in that way. And I see through the scholarship community the ways that students show up for each other, and I can only imagine it's exhausting at times, even if it is rewarding. I know that it can come at a cost. So I really appreciate all that you all do to make the scholarship community what it is, because we put in place like the skeleton, but you guys really bring to it the impact that it has on you all. And I just want to reiterate something that I believe Gabby said, that, and probably all of you at some point in this, we do need more support for our scholars to make that a little bit easier of a lift on them, because they're showing up for each other every day and uplifting each other. And so if there's anything that we all in the room, that's something that I carry with me every day when I interact with them. I'm always thinking about how can I make it a little bit easier for them to show up and do that work, because I'm in a position where I can help them. So just wanted to acknowledge all that you guys have done to make this community what it is. I think we have time for one more question. Are there any in the chat? Okay. Yeah.
This isn't a question, it's more of a comment. But I used to be a student at the school on the scholarship, graduated last year, great scholarship, love this place. For any of the professors in the room, or the person who asked, how can a department help, or how can a faculty help? I think the land acknowledgement is big. I think going to a class and hearing your professor actually acknowledge that this land is not our land, we are on Ho-Chunk land, right? And kind of make it they're not just reading off a script, because I feel like a lot of people do things because they think they need to do things nowadays. And you feel more safe as being a person of color or being an underrepresented group, of walking in a place and hearing someone actually care about the fact that they're gonna start this semester off on a note of hey, I believe in the things you also believe in, I think that a lot of professors kind of just have it in their syllabus, and they don't even mention it, or they don't even talk about anything related. I don't think that should be political. I once asked my professor hey, why didn't you talk about the land acknowledgement, or why didn't you acknowledge that we weren't on the land? And he was oh, I don't want to make things political. And I was that's not political. Our existence is not political, So just another thing that you can do, little comment.
Shout out Maria, she was in our cohort. Miss you. Also, I 100% agree with that. I think starting off the semester on a positive note, that's an inclusive note, creating community norms and shared language is a huge thing that professors can do. It's something that every single time it happens in a class, I smile, because it's a little funny at first, because you're oh, we're all adults. Why are we creating shared norms? But then as the semester goes on, you really start to realize that those things are very important, and setting those up at the beginning really leads to a better and a successful semester, and you're in community with your fellow students, and you all are understanding that there are certain things that are and aren't allowed in a classroom. And so it can kind of lead to some of those uncomfortable moments not even occurring in the first place.
I agree. I think a lot of the professors that I have genuinely connected with, and where I've been able to genuinely engage with their content and their class, have been professors who at the beginning of the semester set the precedent that they value inclusion, and they value the diverse identities that students bring and the diverse experiences that students bring, because that helps us critically engage with their content in class as well. So I think it's really important to set that precedent, even if it's just a statement, to kind of let students know that it is an accepting and inclusive environment.
Thank you for your comment, Maria.
Can we get another round of applause for our presenters? And I also want to share gratitude with the audience. This is some really great questions. Thank you for coming and listening to our students, talk about their experience, being engaging. We are at the end of our presentation, but of course, I know that it sounds like there's some faculty in the room, so, reach out to us, to any of our staff. You can go to our website. So definitely continue engaging with us and engaging with our students and students in our division. The work that we do really does matter, and it's really about those connections. So thank you for listening.